As the crisis continues to unfold, journalists are starting to really dig into the responses and how well they were executed between the West Coast and the East Coast during the pandemic. They're asking why New York has suffered 10 times more deaths than California.
Yeah, great question. A ProPublica piece cited the dysfunctional relationship between New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo as a significant reason. And those are not the only mistakes that Cuomo has made during this pandemic. Editor-at-large for Jacobin, David Sirota, he joins us now via Skype to discuss this. Good to see you, David.
A leading Cuomoologist.
Yeah. Good to see you guys.
Our resident Cuomo expert.
Yeah.
David, tell us about this one. I mean, Chris and I have just been mystified, given that he's got like an 80% approval rating, and by all accounts did the worst job of any governor in the country at containing this pandemic. So how do we square these things?
Well, I mean, the big takeaway of the ProPublica piece is that Cuomo basically didn't act nearly as quickly as other governors, even at the urging of experts. And by acting quickly, we're talking about, the lockdowns, taking dramatic action to do social distancing and the like, taking the threat specifically in nursing homes seriously. And what we've learned is that this was a matter of days and weeks, not months. That a decision made to lock down an economy a few days earlier potentially could save thousands or even tens of thousands of lives. And Andrew Cuomo was one of the politicians who was not really taking the emergency seriously, even as other politicians and public health experts were taking much bolder and more dramatic action. Now, let's be clear. It's always 20/20 hindsight, and these are fast-moving situations. This was an unprecedented situation, at least for America, and so I do think that it's fair to say to understand that it's hard to see in these situations hours, days, weeks ahead. But when the takeaway from this report, the ProPublica report in particular, I mean, it really is just so egregious. Some of the things that happened in terms of not taking action, in terms of foot dragging, in terms of not really being competent to the task at hand. And to your point, then you ask the question, how can all of that be the case and Andrew Cuomo still be, at an 80% popularity and considered a hero of the crisis? I mean, I think that speaks to the question of what is our politics really all about? Are politics really connected to actual performance in office anymore? Do those two things have anything to do with each other? How well you are actually doing in the real world versus what your political image is? Are these two things connected together at all? And I think in the case of New York, it suggests there's not much of a connection. By the way, I should also add that, with Donald Trump, I think he has epically mismanaged this crisis, and his numbers, they're not great, but they're still, he's still competitive for re-election. His approval rating is still competitive as a president. It's not unprecedentedly low. And so again, it goes back to this question of how are we actually judging our politicians anymore? Does it have anything to do with their actual track record in office, or does it have to do with everything else? Images, are you in the media, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Well, and Andrew Cuomo certainly helped by having his brother hosting a primetime CNN show, which he has appeared on regularly, much more so than he has appeared on any other network. And he never received any questions about his decisions regarding nursing homes that seems to have led to a big spike of coronavirus infections and deaths in nursing home. They've, joked around about his nose being big and other things. But it certainly doesn't hurt to have that sort of into the elite media as well, driving the narrative about how exactly this is all going down.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, the situation with Andrew Cuomo and Chris Cuomo, I mean, at the beginning of this, I thought it was a joke. Honestly, I truly did. There was a clip of the two Cuomos joking about each other's family or, going back and forth, bantering back and forth. And I actually thought it was a deep fake to make fun of the media. That I legitimately couldn't believe that as hundreds or thousands of people are dying, these two people are on national television joking with each other, not really focused on the issues at hand, and it's become a kind of reality TV show. But it's not a joke. That's actually happening. And look, maybe some of it's, every now and then we need some comic relief, but this is not funny. This is not a reality TV show. Andrew Cuomo is the governor of one of the largest states in the country, and he needs to be asked serious, tough questions about the decisions that he made and the decisions that are being made going forward. And for many weeks, those questions weren't being asked at all. And I would say that it was effectively an abdication of responsibility by the media. Now, I understand that everybody was shell-shocked, and I think it's a very good thing that those questions are now being asked. We need to understand the answers to those questions to understand how to make better decisions moving forward. And also, I would add, to understand which politicians need to be held accountable for the decisions that they made that may have cost lives.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and David, you're in a Western state, and you understand kind of the divide in the country. I mean, we've talked about this before. So much of it just seems to be that he's based in the state where the media lives, and that's how they cover him.
Absolutely, 100%. And the thing is that the other governors who have made better decisions and had better track records of dealing with this, Gavin Newsom, Jay Inslee, they've gotten relatively little coverage in the media. And look, this is not all about who's getting great coverage, who's not getting great coverage. There's a crisis at hand. That's the main thing we should be focused on. But the problem is that if so much of the media conversation is taken up by Andrew Cuomo, by a governor who has made pretty bad decisions with a pretty bad track record, and that attention is not focused on the track record, while other governors are doing a much better job of dealing with the crisis, but they're not getting covered, their decisions are not getting the attention they deserve. The problem is that the information of how to actually deal with this crisis is then not being disseminated nearly as widely as it needs to be disseminated. I mean, we need to know the models, the actions that were taken that actually did a good job in these crises, so that we have a guide of best practices moving forward. Because let's remember, there's a lot of scientific experts who say that this crisis will surge back in the fall. We need to take a lesson, a cautionary tale from New York about what they did wrong, and take lessons from what they did right in places like California and Washington State.
Very well said, sir. Always great to see you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Memorial Day. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Appreciate you all. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and we'll see you back here. Enjoy.